All right. Tonight, let's talk about some meditation. Let's talk about a little bit about spirituality. Maybe we'll do some tarot. I'm just going to wait a minute and have people join. I'm on YouTube and I'm on Instagram. Hi, guys. How are you doing tonight, Jen? Good to see you. Anything that you want to focus on? Anything that you need to work on? Anything you want to talk about? Let me know if anyone has any suggestions. Otherwise, we can just get started. That's Oliver making, he's nesting on the chair. We'll do a collective card read. Oh, Jen, your dog is sick and old. Oh, God. Oh, dear. That is hard. All right. So we're going to work on some healing. We're going to work on just finding some balance in the stress that we're all under on some level or another, right? Whether we're dealing with our older animals or we're dealing with older people, humans. Let's work on that a little bit. Let's just work on some healing. So the card that came up is, hang on, let me read it for you. Rock bottom. Surrender to the alchemy of life. So cracked open. So when we hit rock bottom, or when we feel like we are going through the worst, or something that feels like the worst, right? It forces us into a new state of being. And we can either deny that for ourselves by not seeing the lesson, by staying stuck in the suffering, or we can learn from it and start to move ourselves from the suffering and into a place of understanding, learning. And you might ask, well, how do I do that? How do I move myself out of a place of suffering? Well, when we're dealing with grief, we don't do that. Grief is its own experience that we don't want to mess with too much. And we want to allow ourselves the grieving process. We want to allow ourselves the grieving process even before someone we love has passed. If we know that they're about to pass, or they're sick, or whatever that is, we have to allow ourselves that. And so when I talk about moving yourself out of a place of suffering, I'm not asking you to not suffer. I'm not asking you to stop the suffering. I'm not asking you to find a way to lessen the suffering. I'm asking you to understand the suffering, not from here, but from the heart and the gut and the intuition. And when you're ready, you'll know, because you'll be intuitively nudged. When you're ready, you start to move yourself into the knowingness and the lesson that lives in all suffering. And when we talk about lessons, lessons are not always black and white. Lessons are not always, oh, this happened because blah, blah, blah. Especially when it comes to the passing of a loved one, even when it's unexpected, or animals in particular, when they're passing, they carry such deep karmic lessons for us that we a lot of times really don't understand or know or learn that lesson till much later after they've passed. We obviously have the obvious lessons, right, of love and unconditional love and whatever other beautiful things they have brought us. But really, this depth of what they energetically were doing for us, how they were serving us when they were alive, that really comes later. Same with humans. And so this is why the grieving process is so important. And this is why we don't want to stop grief. We don't want to stop suffering. But we do want to be conscious enough to understand when it's time to start to understand the lesson. And the lesson comes through grief and sadness and feeling and emoting. But then after we have done that, it comes through our meditation, our silence, our intuition. And so when we're dealing with a pet in particular, we want to allow the grief to live there, but then also allow that intuitive connection that we have with that animal to be stronger, if possible, than the grief. And what that means is intuition is very subtle. Okay. So when we talk about the intuition being stronger than the grief, it doesn't mean that it's going to be louder. It means that even though we are in pain, we can feel this thing underneath that's very subtle and small, but that it's like our compass, and it's like it's reminding us, telling us, showing us. And again, it's not going to take away suffering. It's going to remind us of it's going to remind us of, how do I want to say this? Who we are as spiritual beings, and the depth of what we truly know and understand as spiritual beings, something that most of us really don't practice daily. Most of us don't practice and are conscious of it day to day. But when we're dealing with our animals, we tend to, whether we know it or not, we tend to snap into this place of intuitive knowing because the animals don't speak. Same with an infant or a child that's not speaking yet, right? They call it mother's intuition. But men have it too. It's parent intuition. It's an intuition that, because it's not about us and it's about someone that we love so deeply, we allow that intuition to live and to breathe in us. And so as we go through the grieving process of losing someone that we love or watching someone that we love pass, one sec, I'm just saying hi to Patricia over on YouTube. As we're going through that grieving process and allowing that death to transpire, we bring ourselves into meditation as much as we can. So for me, when I bring myself into meditation during times of grief, I've lost a lot of animals and I've lost humans. And so sometimes that meditation is lying in bed with meditation music on, or for me, it's chanting. And I don't have the energy, I don't have the strength to actually chant or to actually meditate. And so I just lie and I listen. Sometimes I'll do gentle yoga if I need to do something, I need to move. And so sometimes it's just walking outside. Sometimes it's just doing nothing. And sometimes that's it. Just being in that stillness and that silence that is very painful and overwhelming is the most powerful thing that we can do, is the most powerful healing tool that we have. And allowing ourselves to sit in that and be in that as long as possible. And all of this applies to ending relationships, right? All of this applies to losing a job. All of this applies to any sort of death, whether it be an actual death or an emotional death. It all applies because we're perceiving it and experiencing it very similarly. Any questions about that? If you're new, we're going to go into a meditation. So get comfortable, lie down, lean against the couch, go where it feels good to you. Let's take 3 releasing breaths. Deep inhale through the nose, exhale. I want you to blow it all out. 2 more. All right. Close your eyes if they're not already closed. Allow the breath to move at its own pace, no longer controlling that inhale and exhale. Just sit for a moment with the breath. And start to feel the belly. And I want you to allow the belly to move with the breath. So really allowing that belly to totally let go, allowing that belly to expand on the inhale and then gently pull in on the exhale. Deepening the breath, lengthening the breath, slowing down the breath, deepening the breath, lengthening the breath, slowing down the breath. Deepen the breath, lengthen the breath, slow down the breath. Just gently make your way through the body, wiggling the fingers and the toes to make sure they're not clenched. Making sure the eyes are just gently closed, not squeezed tight. Allowing the shoulders to pull away from the ears. The arms and legs grow heavy. Cheekbones and jaw feel heavy. You allow yourself to totally let go. Feeling the belly move, placing the right or the left hand over the belly, and just allowing yourself to experience the connection of the breath and the belly together. How does this feel? And every so often, I want you to gently deepen the breath. So we're not forcing the breath. We're not changing the breath, but we're allowing ourselves to breathe a little bit deeper. Allowing ourselves to breathe a little bit deeper. And as you feel the belly move under your hand, I want you to remind yourself that the belly is our connection to the outside world. It's where we digest all our relationships. It's where we digest our food, our feelings, our experiences. So we want to allow the belly to move freely as often as possible. We want to allow ourselves to allow that belly to be free, not tense, not tight, as often as possible. And bringing your attention to the spine, I want you to feel, see, imagine a silver cord that moves up the spine and out the top of the head. And that silver cord also moves down the spine into the center of the earth. So that cord locks you into the earth, grounding you, holding you. And that cord also lifts you up into the levity of the cosmos, allowing yourself to feel both light and gravity. As you inhale, you pull that silver cord down to the bottom of the spine and then move it down into the center of the earth. And as you inhale, you allow that light to move up the top and out the crown of the head. Inhaling the light in, exhaling the light out. Inhaling the light in, exhaling the light out. Inhale the light in, exhale the light out. Allowing the body to totally let go. And just for a moment, feel yourself being held by the earth. Feel yourself so rooted deep into the center of the earth that you feel the body grow heavy, weighted, knowing that you're being held, supported. You don't need to do the work anymore. Can you allow yourself to totally let go? As you allow yourself to let go, allow the breath to move at its own pace. No longer forcing or moving that inhale and exhale. Let it move on its own. You feel yourself being held by the earth. You allow yourself to let go, and we find a sense of trust in this safety net, knowing this is a place that you can always access. No one will hurt you here. No one can move into your space or your field here. It's just you, your guides, your angels. And you allow yourself to just be at ease. What is it like to let go? And now I want you to allow yourself to move this light out the crown of the head. And for a moment, allow yourself to feel the levity, the light, the lightness. We've experienced the gravity, and now we're going to experience the light. The light is where our consciousness lives. The answers to all our questions live. Everything lives in the light. Allow yourself to move up into the light, feeling the light, allowing that light to wrap itself around you, and you engage and experience the information that lives in light. And all this information moves through you. You may not hear it or know what it is right now, but you will hold it. And when you're ready, it will come to you. Allow yourself to feel the light, feeling yourself lifted, feeling the levity, reminding yourself that it is not always this difficult. But the levity and the lightness moves you into a place of knowing, trusting. Allow yourself to experience the trust. Allow yourself to hold all the information that you need and know that that information will come to you as you need it. Everything you need is right here, and this place is always available to you. Notice the breath, but don't change the breath. If you notice the breath is shallow, you can deepen it a little. If you notice that you're controlling the breath, let it go. Let it move on its own. Become aware of your state of being. Knowing that all that you're experiencing here in this moment, you can have at any time. It's just a matter of conditioning the self. Allow yourself to see the depth of earth and feel the light of the cosmos as they come together right in the center of your being, right in that belly button, which is where we started. Feel that, see that, experience that light coming together right in the center of the belly button and expanding out into the cosmos. So we're pushing our auric field out, which allows us to be more, feel more, experience more without feeling drained, lost, overwhelmed. But rather that auric field is so big that it includes the trust and the knowing and the faith. Just a few more breaths here, and then when you're ready, I want you to gently open the eyes, but I want you to not move the body too much. Opening the eyes, but just being still for a minute so that you get comfortable with the eyes being opened and the peace still being present. So we want to get comfortable with that balance and that peaceful state living within us even when we are awake, right? That balance and that meditative state exists and can exist even when we're awake. And we just need to get better at that. That's through practice, through conditioning. Here's the card that came up for us, joy. Joy is not an emotion. Joy is a devotion. And so we are all born with a base emotion, a base experience, which is joy. Joy is not attached to a experience. Joy is not attached to a person or a thing. Joy is simply joy in its purest form when we are at our most pure, silent, still. And joy is what we find in meditation. Joy is what we find after yoga. Joy is what we find when babies are born. It's this thing that is unexplainable, but is overwhelming. And even though I said joy is not attached to any one moment or experience, when we are experiencing the birth of a child or we are experiencing our animals, they can bring out that joy in us because it is coming from the purest, most connected space that has nothing to do with I did this and it brought you joy. Their pure existence emulates and triggers our joy. right? Versus someone saying something to you and it makes you happy. It makes you feel something. That's different. I want to answer a question that Patricia asked before the meditation. She said, "Why, since my mom passed, do I get periods of sadness?" So, grief comes in waves. And for a lot of people who've experienced grief, you understand this, right? Grief comes in waves and it'll come at random times. You might be feeling perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden it overwhelms you. It can be triggered by something or not triggered by anything. And so when we are in the grieving process, this can take years. It For everyone it's different. You will go through periods of sadness that you won't be able to connect to anything. You'll be like, I had a great day today. I had so much fun. My whole family was here. I was laughing. I was happy. And then all of a sudden I was sad. Well, when you're grieving, that's how that works, right? I do it where we try to pinpoint the sadness and say, where is it coming from and why. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I'm just making this up. Let's say Patricia's like, my mom died 2 years ago. Why would I be feeling it now? 2 years is not a long time. That's not a long time, right? And so we try to make sense of the grief. And I say I do it too because I think it's human nature, right? But at the end of the day, the best thing we can do is not make sense of it and just understand it, and don't get on the phone and talk to someone about it. Talk about it, right? Uh, and just understanding that that's where that's coming from. So it's very normal for you to go through those periods of sadness. What else? Any other questions? In 1 hour, I'll be live again on both channels for Myth or Mystery, paranormal show, a lot of fun, very different, very light. But we definitely talk about the unknown and the paranormal. If you'd like to join, I will be here for that. I try to be here every Thursday at 5:30. I wasn't here last week. Sorry. Sometimes life gets in the way. But that's my goal, is to be here for you guys. You're more than welcome to submit a question as far as something you want to work on, something you want to talk about. But otherwise, you guys did great tonight. Very connected, really strong energy. Hi, Denise. Good to see everybody. And I will see you guys. I'll see some of you in an hour for Myth or Mystery. Otherwise, I'll hopefully see you next week.